Welcome. This is the Commissioner's Corner podcast. Today is March 29th, 2018, and this is episode number 36. As always, we are presented by web3ks.com. Check out web3ks.com for your webpage, social media, and all your other graphics needs for a very affordable price. The MBL is in week 14, and it is almost playoff time. Tonight on the show, we're talking about how the Kansas City Chiefs are forcing themselves into this playoff talk. We're going to look at the AFC and the NFC playoff pictures. And then the Dolphins had a huge upset over the New England Patriots. And then we're going to make some picks regarding a bunch of different things in the MBL. Bomber, we're getting into some pretty big stuff here in the MBL. We know that we have a couple of events coming up over the next month. I'm super excited, and I can't wait to talk about it with you right now.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of great things going on in the league right now. It's towards the end of the season, NBL Season 30. We got some great EA hosting opportunities coming up each Saturday from here on out until April 21st, and then we're back-to-back the 21st and the 22nd. So exciting things for the league because the season's coming to a close, and also we got some big opportunities outside of the league. I think everybody's stoked about that, and it all kind of leads into the NFL draft in real life, in which gets us vamped back up for EA play, and then we also have the new release of Madden 19. So a lot of positivity, a lot of great stuff going on right now. As you see the schedule on the board right now on the graphic, each Saturday you got March 31st, which is this Saturday, April 7th, and then the 14th is going to be MBL Season 30 Super Bowl, and then April 21st, 22nd, we're on a back-to-back, which will kick off the new season, which will be MBL Season 31. So I'm excited to be here. Let's get this show rolling.
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting time because, as you said, the 14th there is marked as the Super Bowl. We watched all those games last year on the MBL Network. We had all the games for the playoffs broadcast, and it was super exciting because all those games were great. I do believe that we're going to get a wild card game the week before the Super Bowl there on the EA Twitch stream, and then that big Super Bowl game is going to be exciting. But, all right, we're moving on. We're moving on to a topic that is going to produce some difficult pronunciations. This is a guy that I just called the Chiefs quarterback because nobody can pronounce his name. I think OSU was doing a pretty good job of it the other night on MBL Live or on Highly Debatable, and they were absolutely right that there's not a whole lot of talk about this guy, but he is having an absolutely incredible season, and he has the Chiefs in playoff position, and that's something that's pretty tough to do because they do play in that challenging AFC West. Now you have the Chargers at 11-1. I do believe the Chiefs won today again over the Ravens. I'm sorry, putting them at 9-4. But a big thing that has kind of pushed them here is that the Raiders are kind of having a down and out season, going to finish at or below 500. But the Chiefs are really in position, and it's just because of this guy. And I'm so excited to talk about him because we've always talked about the Draco defense and the defense in Kansas City. But boy, today we get to talk about the offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got a great nickname for this guy. I've kind of been calling him this throughout the time because I cannot pronounce his last name, and I just don't want to call him James because then it sounds like he's my friend, and I don't even know him, and he's not even real. He's virtual. So I thought of this nickname. Really, as I said just a second ago, it wasn't a nickname originally, Lip, but it's a nickname now, and I think it's actually kind of cool. I just think we call him Chiefs quarterback. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
I mean, the most simplistic nickname, but he's a boss. I mean, nobody wants to pronounce that last name. It has S's, Z's, Y's, 2 Z's, an S, a Y, a K, and a C. I mean, this is tough.
This guy has 2 Z's in his name. Literally, you had asked me what we were talking about. I said Chiefs quarterback. Other people said, what's our topics? I say Chiefs quarterback. I'm not really into trying to pronounce this name, although I think OSU did a decent job. I think he called him Strzelczyk. But
yeah, he pronounced it really nicely. I went back and looked at the actual words, and I thought, man, that's sure. It sounded nice, but there's no way that's what it really sounds.
It's like Strzelczyk. It's just like what?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So here's the only thing I'm going to ask Draco. So we're going to give him this nickname. Commissioner Corner Podcast is going to nickname this guy Chiefs quarterback. You can call him Chiefs QB on text. That's what we're going to call him. That's going to be his nickname, and that's one of the most non-authentic, non-original, but I kind of like it because it's such a weird niche. I think Chiefs QB is the best. The only thing we're asking Draco, somehow, please, don't let this guy end up on free agency on another team because then it completely dies. And in four years from now, we're playing Madden 35. We're going to look back and be like, remember that Chiefs-Panthers Chargers quarterback guy, it will just get completely lost in the sauce if we do that. So you have to keep him on your team. And guys, I want you to be using Chiefs QB to talk about this guy because that's his nickname.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point because if we start going on, if he goes on to another team, that absolutely cannot happen. Just would kill the whole nickname. But Chiefs QB is what we're going with because neither of us want to embarrass ourselves with trying to pronounce that name. But let's really dive in here to this Chiefs QB and look at what he has been able to do this season. It's extremely impressive. Whenever you can keep those interceptions down, I think under 20 is a really good season. And currently right now, he's at 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, which I don't know if you've ever played Madden before, Bomber, but it's pretty tough to beat teams whenever they play the defense that the Chiefs play and don't turn the ball over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty tough.
And I think actually the Kansas City Chiefs defense isn't what we're kind of accustomed with Draco. He's kind of adapting to the times. He's realized now that his defense might give up 20 points, but that's too much for his defense because previously in previous Maddens, he was giving up 11, 12 to 15 points. That's when he would win. It's kind of impossible to do it right now. He's noticing he doesn't have the personnel, so he says, you know what? Let's let the gunslinger start slinging the ball. I mean, this is why we drafted this guy, to use his arm, and that's what they're doing with Chiefs QB. They're letting him loose and letting him roll, and I want to give you some stats on him right now. He's number 3 in total yards behind Stafford and Gerberry. He's got 3,200 yards, but he's number 3 in QBR. He's number 2 in completion percentage at 75.8%. I mean, this is a guy, 25 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions, and a 134.8 QBR that nobody is talking about at all, and I do not know why.
Yeah, you mentioned some names there. Everybody talks about Stafford, Gerberry. Even there's a lot of talk about Winston sometimes whenever they're playing good. But you look at the Chiefs QB, and nobody's really talking about them, and I think that is a huge mistake because, like I said, such a great touchdown-interception ratio. The defense is still good. Like you said, not as good as we are used to with the Draco defense, but it's still extremely, it's still impressive, I'll say. But the thing is with the Chiefs is that in week 2 against the Chargers, that Chargers team's pretty tough if you haven't seen them play. The Chiefs lost them by 7 in week 2, and then in week 11, a very tough 1-point loss. So even 2 of their losses, I think they have 4 losses, 9-4, I believe, right now with a win over the Ravens. 2 of those losses come impressively against these Chargers. That I would even like to say that next season we could see these Chiefs definitely split and possibly even take over the division from the Chargers as we move on here. But it all starts with Chiefs QB, and he has to continue to play at this level or, that prediction goes out the window.
Yeah, you look at this Kansas City Chiefs team, and you talk about the evolution of the owner, Draco, and putting teams together. He's very good putting the defensive units together, but he realized one thing. There is no stopping Melvin Gordon. It's not going to happen. So he's gonna run the ball on you, and he's going to burn a lot of clock. So how do you combat that if you're the Kansas City Chiefs? You get a quarterback that not only is just a game manager, but you're going to bring in a quarterback that can put points on the board. So now you're combating these long just drives that the Chargers are going to go on that are going to chew clock and make you feel like, well, now I have to pass the ball, but I'm not built for this. No, now they're built for this. And I think you're seeing a lot of production out of wide receivers that are finally coming into their own. I mean, let's talk about how great Tyreek Hill has been this season. He's got 10 touchdowns, 45 catches, 963 yards, and that's not including this week as we're gathering that information, adding statistically. I think he went for $199, so that's going to put him over 1,000, closer to 1,100. He had a couple touchdowns. That's going to put him to 12 touchdowns, and let's say he's close to 50 catches. I mean, he's looking at hitting with him and Corey Genti. They're looking at hitting 1,000 yards between each other, and if you can get a duo on your team that has 2 guys over 1,000 yards, that's when you become a threat passing because you're not just dependent on one guy. You have legitimately 2 options, and if your third option is Chris Conley, who's 30 catches, 6 touchdowns, 530 yards, you're feeling really good right now if you're the Chiefs, who are primarily built to be what? A defensive team and a ground and pound offense. I'm seeing a change in kind of strategy for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think that's the only way you can compete with the Chargers, because you're just not going to outrun them. Melvin, you do not have a Melvin Gordon. As much as you think TJ Logan is a great halfback, he's averaging 7.5 carries. You know, he's just not Melvin Gordon. Even on Melvin Gordon's worst outing, you would rather have him getting the ball for that last attempt against TJ Logan's best game, because Melvin Gordon is just that explosive and that dominant.
Yeah, we've seen Melvin Gordon have 6, 7, 8 carries into the third quarter and like 40 yards, and then he just explodes for a 150-yard game. So it's tough whenever you have to compete with that. But just looking here at these last 3 games, we said that the Chiefs got a win over the Ravens today. As we move into week 15, 16, and 17, I do believe that they have some tough games here. Next week they're going to play the Raiders. They know them very well, division opponent. That's going to be a tough one, because back in week 6, the Raiders took the win 27-17. So the Chiefs are looking to take that game and split with the Raiders. And then week 16, they have the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then they finish up with those inconsistent this season, really luck reliant Cleveland Browns at week 17. They're 8-4, and that's gonna really come in. That might be the game of the week, considering that those two teams might be pushing for wild card.
Hit that like button right now. Not to cut Lip off. Hit that like button if you're watching the show. I think we have 28, 30 people watching. Hit that like button for me right now. Also, guys, what are they right now, Lip? 9-4. So they got the Ravens, yes, Chargers, Steelers, Browns left. Oh man, this is not looking good for Kansas City. As much as I hyped them up, I just glanced over their schedule right now, Lip. We might be looking at a team that finishes. So they're 9-4. With those 3 games left, man, I could see them going 1-2. Does 10-6, 11-5 get them in this playoffs? I know the Raiders beat them last time, but traditionally the last couple seasons the Chiefs have pretty much had the Raiders number. Raiders came back. I don't know if this Raiders team is really going to be competing next week. They're not competing for the playoffs right now. Maybe that's the win they get in, and maybe that's their win. And if they lose that, they could easily lose all 3 of these games in the final stretch, which would put them at 9-7. So I think they got to get this win here, and this win next week against the Raiders for them to be 10-6. And I don't even know if that gets them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that the best way we can look at this is that they have to win this game against the Raiders, and then I think that they can definitely beat the Browns. They've played very tight games against the Steelers before, so I think that they're all very winnable games, but they're going to be tight and they're going to be close. You're going to have to play your style of football and stay consistent with not turning the ball over, which Chiefs QB has done a very good job of this season. Hop, real quick, can we put up the AFC playoff race now? Can we get that up on the screen? Because we're talking about these teams that are going to be. These teams are going to be coming together. The Browns and Chiefs play week 17. That's going to be a heck of a game. And then we have the Ravens, who took a loss today. That puts them at, I think that puts them at 6 losses. But then you still have the Texans in play. So we have right now about 5 teams that are fighting for this wild card spot. If somehow the Jaguars come back, that's going to shift the Titans into the wild card race. But still, those are the 5 teams roughly that are going to be in the wild card race. And we looked at the Chiefs' schedule, and
it's tough, but they do got the win over the Ravens, so that gives them the head-to-head on the Ravens. That was a big win today, kind of a must-win. Now, coming into today's game, they had Ravens, Raiders, Steelers, then Browns. I think this was a must-win today, and they came through and got that win. An overthrow at the end of the game from Andrew Luck, a post route against the cover 2 zone wide open. He doesn't get it. It ends up being the fall of that team. The Ravens are in trouble now, as they're going to sit at they moved to 7-6. This is a team in really, really dire trouble right now, because you got to think the Jaguars at 9-3, they'd have to completely collapse. I see them getting at least 2 more wins from their remaining schedule. But man, I don't know, man. This is going to be a wild race to the end. The Browns might sneak back up there and win and get in this division. I think you look at the remaining schedule of the Jaguars, it's not easy either. I mean, you got the Texans, the Steelers, the Titans, and the Rams. All teams over 500. The Rams 6-5-1. Yeah, am I reading that right? Okay, 6-5-1. Titans 9-3. Steelers 11-2. Texans 7-5. And we know how the Jaguars play against teams over 500. They absolutely don't. and they might be in trouble. So this race that looks kind of positive right now with a lot of teams over 500, they all have pretty tough schedules, and that's what I think the Browns might be looking in and saying, hey, man, we might be able to slide in here to this number 2 wild card spot and have an opportunity to rumble into playoffs, and then that's when things just get dangerous and everything's up in the air.
Yeah, the thing with the Browns, man, they're 31st in defense, 23 points allowed. They've got the Titans, the Packers, and the Chiefs, which, to make this all messier, I think that those 3 teams could all be losses for the Browns. So Jameis Winston has been a big headache for the Browns. So we're looking at this AFC, this picture, and like you said, there's so many teams have so many challenging games, and they're all playing each other too in these last 4 weeks or so. It's going to be
interesting. Have you taken a look at the Texans' schedule? I know the Texans are 7-5 right now, but let's say they do beat the Jacksonville Jaguars week 14. Puts them to 8-5. Then they play the Colts. Mark that down as a double W, 9-5. They play the Jets. I think they lose that game 9-6. They play the Broncos 2-10. They win that game. If they can run it off, they finish 11-5. If they lose one, I think they'll probably drop to the Jets, who are playing very well this year with Derek Carr and Julio Jones. And a little snippet for what's coming on the MBL magazine. We got a New York Jets cover with Julio Jones just sporting that new New York Jets green, that mean green, looking fresh. I've seen just a little bit of it, and you guys are really going to be excited when you see that. Trust me, it looks very good. Big shout out to Kyle, Matt Miller, the Flat Killer. But I think they go 3-1 to end this, and now they're 10-6. Looking at everybody else's schedule, Lip, the Jaguars, I think, finished 10-6. So there's going to be a pileup at 10-6, maybe 3 or 4 teams. Yeah. Maybe the Browns, the Jaguars, the Chiefs, and maybe even the Houston Texans, and maybe even the Ravens. I don't know. This could be really just a massive car pileup here at 10-6 for those 2 wild card spots.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see. And you know what I'm excited to see is these last couple of weeks, 15, 16, 17 on the NBL Network. Those guys do a pretty good job of putting those games that matter big time for the playoffs on there. So we're going to get to see those games. So I'm very excited. And then we're going to be going into that EA Twitch stream for playoffs. It's going to be so exciting. We're going to see it all play out. But now we're going to move on to the NFC. We're going to look at this, the NFC playoff picture. And boy, once again, we have the Seattle Seahawks making a push. They're still not out. They started out so rocky. They lost to the Texans. They had such a rocky start, but now somehow they are tied as it sits right now. As Daddy Leaks is updated, the Rams and the Seahawks are tied at 6-5-1 for first place in the NFC West. Ballmer, is there any way that the Seahawks, did they ever die? It just seems like every year they come back at the end of the season.
This team, if you get within striking distance at the end of the season, especially when it comes down to a division race in which these teams, they're playing this week, Seahawks versus the Rams. They tie, a suit and tie on their last game that they played. So when I'm looking at these teams, I'm thinking, who has more experience? That's who I think is going to come through. Who's got the understanding of what it takes to close games out at the ends of seasons when games matter the most. You think Seattle Seahawks, because they've done it every single time this cycle, and when it looked like the Niners were going to run away with it, it looked like the Seahawks were dead and the Rams were going to run away with it. It looked like, heck, all of them were 3-7 at one point. The Cardinals didn't look too bad, and they might win this. It always came back home to the Kings in Seattle, and that's right, the Seattle Seahawks are the Kings of the West. They're the best in the NFC West. I think they just end up finding a way, and then they won and done in the playoffs. I don't give them much chance in the playoffs, but I think they just find a way to win the division in the most sloppiest of ways.
Yeah, that seems to be what the Seahawks do. They start out terrible. They are so good on the back half of the season and even into the playoffs. They make those long playoff runs, and nobody gives them a chance. You mentioned that they play the Rams this week. So the Rams and Seahawks play each other. And then the Seahawks have the Cardinals, the 49ers, and the Packers. Those are all teams that have 3 or less wins. And then the Rams have the Seahawks, of course. They also play the 49ers, the Colts. But the Rams have the Jaguars week 17. That could be another game to watch.
For both teams.
Absolutely.
A win and winning in maybe for both teams.
Yeah, and that's going to be a huge factor in who gets this division. And I can't believe I'm saying it, but it's just like the Seahawks never go away, and they're always going to be there somehow, some way. And it's lining up for it to happen once again. But as we look at the rest As it sits right now, we have the Giants, the Lions, the Falcons. Currently, the Rams are sitting as the division leader, but like we said, the Seahawks are right there with them. And in the wild card race, you have the Vikings, the Saints, and the Redskins. Now, another interesting play here. Is there a chance that we could see the Giants collapse, lose the division, and the Redskins walk into the playoffs as the winners of the NFC East? How much of a chance do you give that?
I think we're going to be seeing Porter's picture as the NFC East champion, MBL Season 30. Absolutely. That's something, actually, I think all of us want to see. I think it'll look funny. I do. It'll be definitely something that that will be on MBL Live to the board. What's that?
He will have a shot to be on MBL Live in the playoffs.
Oh, wow. So maybe he gets the reverse effect of where he's horrible on MBL Live during the regular season, but playoff Porter on MBL Live, that might be something to watch. I don't know. I'm leaning towards the opposite of that, but you never know. Maybe the curse is somehow flipped once he gets inside of the playoff bracket. I don't know, but I do like the Redskins right now. I just think the Giants are just kind of falling. I just ended up playing the Giants, actually, and they were a strong team in the first half, but under new ownership, you're definitely seeing a different style of play, a more power run, flat base passing, more game manager passing, and with Davis Webb out, and you see Sam Bradford out there, you know he just doesn't have the arm strength to really beat you down the field. So even with Odell Beckham, you're seeing a lot of medium routes to short routes, as opposed to the deeper routes that previous owner of the New York Giants, Bananas, was doing, who's in the grid, working his way back to the NBL. Big shout out to him. So, it's just a different philosophy right now, and I think during that change and until this owner gets the players that fits his scheme, I think the Redskins, a team with no identity, but they've been trying to build one for 4 seasons, might actually make the playoffs and have this banner that I'm almost 99% positive when his banner goes up, it will be his avatar and group. Me, probably for his entire lifespan. Even when he switches to another team next Madden cycle, I think he will keep this because that will be the last significant thing he will have for quite a while. Unless he does it again, which he could in that division.
I think that he thinks that it's coming. I think that he is extremely confident in that because I think that he was talking the other day about staying as the Redskins. So I think he's got a little love for those Redskins, and that would only increase.
Let me say something to that too. Win. What Lip just said is something you hear towards the end. Someone could have a miserable cycle with a team, and they will curse them and hate that team. But if they just finish, if the end of the book, the last page, leaves them with some kind of hope, they will say something crazy like, man, you know what? I kind of like these Redskins throughout this cycle. And even though 80-90% of that wasn't true, that last 10% being as sweet as it was, it might help him stay there. And then early in the cycle, he'll go, what did I do? Worst decision I ever made. And we'll just all sit back and laugh at that because that's how it usually works out for most people. But absolutely, big shout out to Porter. He says I'm giving him some harsh words right now. I've always said you had no identity, so don't put that on me right now. I've said that all the time. That can't be counted against me. That's just me sticking to what I've always said. But I do think you win the division this year. You could even go back-to-back next season. In my opinion, I just think he has the team that's kind of ready to take that next step, especially in the situation the division is now. But I definitely think the Redskins overtake the Giants and win that division.
Yeah, that's going to be extremely exciting to see because the Giants had such a great lead to start. Change of ownership. We're watching this play out. We're all excited to see how it plays out. But we're going to move on now. We're going to be talking about a game that happened in Week 12, but it's still important because we've always talked about how the AFC East is just kind of a little bit messy. Sometimes one team just dominates for a stretch, and then the other teams kind of fall apart. And then the team that was dominant falls apart and somebody else kind of jumps up. But you like to talk about the Jets and the season that the offseason moves that they've made. And I was in the chat with Delvar. We were playing Sea of Thieves. Great game. Pick it up if you don't have it. Whenever he found out that Pricey's Dolphins beat Timbo's Patriots in Week 12.
Oh, yeah.
17-14. And that's big because that gave the Jets another little bit of just another game lead to get into the playoffs and make their run after they made these great moves. I'll let you talk about that. But also, the Patriots go out and they drop a game against the Buccaneers. They lose that 23-17. They have the Jets this week, Week 15, and then they will play the Dolphins again in Week 16. They're probably out of the playoff talk with 8 losses, the Patriots are. But this is about the Dolphins sticking with it and still fighting currently 3-9, and not giving up against anybody. Tough division game, going out there getting a big win, and that's just something that we wanted to point out here because it's just one of those impressive things that we love to talk about.
Okay, okay, you're leaning me towards talking about the Dolphins. I was actually going to talk about the Jets.
Yeah, go for it.
I understand these games have a lot of impact on the division. This was an AFC East, division game, and the Dolphins came out and they fight till the end like they always do. They're in a lot closer games than you probably would think if you just looked at the final score. It's always a mental error towards the end, or a throw at the end that just really in the middle of the third that just makes no sense. Austin Lester throws a pick six. Perkins with the fumble. A drop from Devontae Parker. You see these things if you're a Dolphins fan. Your team only averages 12 points per game, but most of those 12 come in the first quarter and a half, and you're wondering why can't we close games? Because we lack leadership, but the Dolphins do not lack heart. They fight till the end of the season, till the end of the games, and that's what you love about the MBL, and that's what you love about this team personally. The Patriots, they were predicted to win 11 games this year. I blew that up in the chat because Bleacher Report gave them an 11-5 grade. I said, how are they 11-5? You know, I know what the New York Jets did this offseason. We all saw them bring in Julio Jones. We all saw them bring in Derek Carr. They were an 8-8 team last year. You have them going 8-8 this year. You're going to tell me a quarterback at the caliber of Derek Carr doesn't make you one game better? And a player, I know he's older. I know he's 31, Julio Jones, but still he's Julio Jones. He doesn't make you one game better. How do you not give them a 10-6 grade and you give them New England Patriots, you know, a +2 in the win column? I just did not understand it then, and it's coming to fruition now. The Jets are 8-4, and the only way they blow this is if they have a monumental collapse, which don't put it past them. They've collapsed before, never to this degree, though. The Jets, I think, definitely win the AFC East. I said at the beginning of the season, and gotta love the Dolphins. Patriots, man, they just gotta, you know, I just don't get it. It was that hype that Mahomes was somehow gonna be the answer to a broken Jimmy G, who I think is a backup quarterback in Washington right now. You know, yeah, I think he's broken, but I think it's kind of like that Vince Young situation. You know, was Vince Young broken, or did the system break him and he was just a shell of himself? And I think Jimmy G has the ability, but we may not see it for a couple seasons until something happens over there to Washington. You know, maybe Belisari goes down, Jimmy G comes in, and then what happens is he comes in, you go, man, well, this guy can kind of sling it out. And that could be the, where it all goes for his career. But we're starting to figure out, we're starting to know now that it wasn't Jimmy Garoppolo. It might be the system in New England because, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is playing just as poorly. Maybe throwing at a higher completion percentage, but he's 8 touchdowns, 18 interceptions, and we're already into week 15. 8 touchdowns. Yeah, that's half a touchdown a game, Lip.
Yeah. I do think that I've heard, I don't know if I might be wrong on this, but I think that I've heard the Patriots talk about that they should have probably given Garoppolo more of an opportunity because it just has, like you said, it just hasn't been much different with Mahomes. But the Jets, they're going to face off against the Falcons this week. Then they've got those Patriots. I
don't even think the Jets have to win another game. I think 8-8, I think they're good. I honestly really believe that. I think even if they lost every game, which I don't think, I think they'll, at worst, what's their schedule look like? So they got the Falcons. We'll just mark everyone that could be a loss as a loss with the New York Jets. They got the Falcons, that's a loss. They got the Patriots, I think they win that game. The Texans, see, let's say they only win one. They're gonna win, but either the Patriots game or the Texans game, they're gonna win one of those. Let's just say, at the very, very least, they win one more. 9-7, they get in. They're not gonna not be in at 9-7. They're gonna win the division at 9-7. I just do not see the Bills running the table. The Bills are currently 5-7 right now, and they got games against the Saints, the Ravens, the Falcons, and the Colts can beat anybody any given day. I mean, if I was gonna go there and just give them losses against teams over 500, like the same thing I did to the Jets, they go 1-3 too. They end up 6-10. So goes back to the thing. I don't even think the Jets really have to win a game.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of pressure on them, and I saw that excitement from Delver in that chat. Like I said, and just once again, a great win by Pricey. Somebody in the chat asked what Mahomes' contract was for the Patriots. 4 years, $40 million with a $17 million signing bonus.
So it was a 4-year, $57 million. That's not bad.
No, it's not bad, but
you get what you pay for, Lip.
Yeah.
So you got a favorable kind of a mid-tier contract for
making $10 million this year.
He's a little bit lower. I think he's a backup quarterback for a team that has injury issues. They maybe would have more value to pay him. But I don't know. I think he can make all the throws. I just don't think he can do it all consistently. So I just don't see the consistency here in this guy. He's never posted a 100 QBR. With games where he has, with seasons where he's thrown the ball at least 100 times, his QBRs are 75.9, 62.7, and 83.9. His interceptions have always almost been double for what he produces with touchdowns. This year, even more than double. He gets sacked at a tremendous rate. He doesn't get rid of the ball quickly. So many deficiencies in this kid's game, but he got a mediocre contract. So you wanted to save money at quarterback and bring in a save money quarterback to save your franchise. That's not how it works. And that's why the Patriots are sitting here at 5-8. So what do we got next?
Yeah. So now we're gonna go on and we're gonna make some picks. I'm gonna list two options. We will switch back and forth between who we pick, but just starting off here, we are going to be talking about. This is the best quarterback that nobody's talking about, and we can't talk about Chiefs QB because they talked about him on Highly Debatable. We talked about him tonight. He has kind of emerged as a quarterback that needs to be taken serious, and the league is recognizing that now. So we're going to pick two guys that we've talked about one of them, but we're going to just look at them.
Okay, so I made my picks earlier. I didn't know we were okay.
Yeah,
so
we don't know
my picks, right?
Yeah, we don't know each other's picks.
We're not just going against each other for the sake of it. Yes. So these are actual organic picks that Hop had us make. Our producer, the executive. Wait, is he the executive producer now?
Yeah.
Executive producer of our show essentially reached out to us and created this segment, and he got the answer. So these aren't just us going against each other. If we are, that's genuinely what we put. So if we're on the same page, we're genuinely on the same page. I don't know what Lip put. He doesn't know what I put, but go ahead, Lip. I guess there's a format in which we're going to do this.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about the best underrated quarterback. Now you can't. We're not talking about the quarterbacks who have been popular in the seasons past, have good seasons. We're talking about guys that are kind of emerging now, who we think could take the next step. But right now, we're going to be talking about Brody Denton, quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons, and we're going to be talking about Miro Geralt, the quarterback of the Texans. And we're going to say who is the best quarterback that nobody's talking about. And I'm actually going to go with the Texans quarterback Geralt because you and I talked about Brody a couple weeks ago, and I thought that Brody was I thought that he was the real deal. But then you got in my head talking about their schedule and how it was not a very tough schedule at all. And I haven't really seen him play Brody against the tough teams and impress me against those teams. So I think with what Geralt's doing, people say that he has Hopkins, but I'm not even that big on Hopkins. I think he's a good receiver, but I don't think he's a great. And Geralt's having a good season at 22 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, quarterback rating of 102.6. So I'm going with the Texans quarterback Geralt as my best underrated quarterback, the quarterback nobody's really talking about.
All right, I'm going with Brody Denton by the simple fact of Deion Burse, Kelsey Ford, and Ronnie Bradford. I think he has the best up-and-coming trio in the entire league. I was looking at both of these quarterbacks' attributes and their ability to throw the ball. I like Brody Denton. I understand he's only got 88 throw power, but his accuracies are off the chart. He's 24 years old, superstar development from Colorado University, 90 short, 90 medium, 82 deep. This kid can do it all, and he has the tools on this team. He's not just DeAndre Hopkins heavy. He's not looking for him all game. He's got three options, and all three of these guys are turning into stars on their own right. I think this guy has the opportunity to be, what is this, the dark horse quarterback is what we're talking about, most underrated. I think he's most underrated right now because I think next season, he's not somebody people are really talking about as a top 5 quarterback. He's got his team 10-2 right now. You might be able to deny him for one season, but in NBL Season 31, you will not be able to deny him anything because he's going to come and take that spot. Right now, 3,000 yards, 19 touchdowns.
Yeah, and they're both quarterbacks that nobody's really talking about, and they're both doing great things. But each of us have our own different kind of things that we rate quarterbacks on. So Bomber's going with Brody Denton from the Falcons. I'm going with Geralt from the Texans, and we'll get to see those guys. Maybe the Texans We might get to see them in the later weeks of the season on MBL Live, but we'll probably get to see the Falcons in the playoffs. So we'll get to see how those two handle the playoff pressure. But next, we're moving on to the best or the most underrated halfback. Now, we're not talking about Melvin Gordon. We're not talking about the kid from the Giants who just exploded on MBL Live in the Super Bowl last year. We're going to be talking about a guy that kind of faded away, which I want to see if I want to hear your thoughts on Isaiah Crowell and the running back Jalen Richard. So I'm going to go with Jalen Richard because I think
we're like on opposite pages today.
This kid, nobody's talking about him ever. Listen. 1,300 yards, 1,100 yards. Bad season was 600, then right back to 1,100 and over 1,000 so far this year. He's had double-digit touchdowns for those seasons. The seasons he went over 1,000 yards, and even the season he only got 600 yards, only 122 carries. He had 9 touchdowns. And the thing is, nobody's talking about him. You know, some halfbacks get like 12 to 13 touchdowns, and everybody's going wild over him. But this kid posted 17, 13, 9. 17 again, and 11 already this year, and nobody has really hit on this guy. So Jalen Richards, and we've talked about it on MBL Live, the guy can work the trenches on the inside, but he's also got that speed and agility to work his way on the outside, which is why I'm going with this guy, Jalen Richards, Oakland Raiders halfback.
Okay, and here's why I chose Isaiah Crowell. I don't think you can penalize Isaiah Crowell for the fact that he's been injured, and he's always had a quarterback that can put up yards. And the year that he did it, the year that they completely relied on Isaiah Crowell, he went for 1,700 yards, had 18 touchdowns on 275 attempts. I mean, you want to compare quarterback play to quarterback play. That 100% affects the output of a halfback. And if you don't believe me, Lip, why don't we look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and Le'Veon Bell? Because anytime he gets 15 touches, he goes for 1,500 yards nearly and 10 touchdowns. So if we want to talk about who's the more underrated, I'm going to say, and not talked about, Isaiah Crowell isn't talked about enough. This guy is the ideal player. Right now, he's 6.9 yards per carry. He was 6.2 when he did 1,700 yards, 5.4 the following year. He had injuries for 2 seasons. You mark those out. He's 18, 15, and 14 touchdowns. And their quarterback play continues to improve, but he's finding a way to stay on the field. Now he's getting some receiving yards and catching the ball at the backfield. I absolutely love Isaiah Crowell because he doesn't just get it done running the ball. He gets it done running the ball in a system that actually passes the ball down the field and gets some yards. So I'm going with Isaiah Crowell.
Well, in I think week 3 of the season, Starr decided that Crowell was going to be leaving Cleveland. He announced that extremely early, that we all pointed out. Crowell will most likely be a free agent. I don't know what's happened between then and now, but Crowell will be a free agent. He will be 29 years old, but I still think he'll be very valuable because he does have an unbelievable ability to truck through linebackers and get to the second level. So there we are again, split. Once again, you go Crowell, I go Richards, and we're going to our last little pick'em here. After this one, get your crossfire topics in the chat. Hop's going to pull them out for us. We're going to go over those. But here for this last one, Bomber. If you were to pick a team that could get it together next season in NBL Season 31 and be a team to make a push either for the division or the wild card, give me some reasons why you picked your team. And the 2 teams we're going to be talking about here are the Buccaneers and the Cardinals. Now, I like a lot of things about the Cardinals, but it's just the fact that I've seen them ranked 32 in the passing game for so many seasons that I just don't think that they have a system to get quarterbacks in a rhythm or in success. So I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it's because of their ability to draft. And I know that you had talked about Playa bringing him out into the Lions war room because of his ability to draft, and it is unbelievable. And you know, we can talk about Derek Tanner all day, but their ability to draft is something that I have never seen before. And that's why I think that if I was going to give either the 2 of these teams a chance, I would go with the Buccaneers just because of their ability to draft. This team is going to be loaded next season and the season after for sure.
Okay, so we're on the same page here. I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because as much as I love the Arizona Cardinals, they're just not that good after the coin flip, and that's when stuff really starts going downhill. The Cardinals struggle once the game kicks off. They just are not that good producing on the field, and the Buccaneers just beat the New England Patriots. I mean, the Bucs are coming off a big win right now, and this team can play good teams close. That means they're getting closer. They're getting closer. Once I see them losing by scores of 6, 3, 10, they're right there. It's just a couple big plays, couple big playmakers, and I'm big on one player for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that's what makes me love this team more and more, and that's Derek Tanner. He's got 67 catches, 1,100 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Derek Tanner has been the man as a rookie at wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's why I went with them. Let's get on over to Crossfire and get over with this segment.
Yeah, we only have a few minutes here. I think Hop has to run, and he's doing a grid live tonight. Definitely go over and check that out. Those guys are working hard to work their way up into the MBL network. So definitely give that a look tonight. So real quick, we're going to run through the Crossfire segment. Bomber, will the Raiders draft?
Wait, hold on. I got to address something that was in the chat earlier. We had a guy come in here, Jay Flack Co. He said, MBL is so overrated. Newer leagues making strides to push for that top spot. Hashtag XCFL is the future. And I wanted to respond to that because none of my guys probably said anything to him, because we all try to keep it the same. We're all going to keep our head forward. We're not going to look to the left or the right, at least in no negative way. I mean, what's the point of that? I mean, who cares? I mean, we think we're the best. You think you're the best. We all should think we're the best. But I tell you what, if you ever come knocking at the door asking us for anything, we'll gladly respond and we'll gladly help y'all out if you need anything. But definitely don't get into any wars back and forth. It's pretty much wasted energy, and it's not something we should do. We should all look at each other's product and try to make the product better, because the stronger the CFM is, the better it is for everybody. I mean, that's just plain and simple. That's why you don't see us saying that kind of stuff, and we just keep our head down. I mean, the #1 league that we push outside of us is the Dynasty League in PS4. If you're on PS4, I say go over there and check them out, because we're going to keep our head down and keep looking forward as far as that goes. We're not going to be looking to the left of us and the right of us trying to start. That stuff is that's just nonsense that we really just don't need to engage in. And that's why none of my guys in there engaged with that guy that was in there. I don't know if we removed the comment or not. It just really is a waste of time in that sense. But everybody should think that their league is the best and strive to be the best. But it doesn't have to be a negative thing at the end of the day, because competition is great and it can be positive. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that, Liv. Do you have anything to say about the comment?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, everybody should be proud of their league, but the better that all of these leagues get and the more attention that we bring to the connected franchise mode, the more popular we make it, the more in-depth and detailed and real-life-like that we make it, it just makes everything better for every league. So I like you said, we don't really look at that stuff, because we're just focusing on making our product the best that it can be. We have a lot of guys working on a lot of different projects, and we want our product to be the best that it can be, but we also do want that community to grow and get better themselves. And that's why, you know, you said, you know, you push the Dynasty, because they do good things, and we have a good relationship with them. And I think that's a good thing to have, so that the game mode that we love, the game mode we spend so much time on, can get better, and that way we can enjoy this game so much more. But that's moving on. We're just gonna fly through the Crossfire here. Started to say, will the Raiders draft a quarterback? There was a big argument today about Kaiser, I think, and whether or not he was going to play out. I think OSU might have been defending it. I'm not sure. I didn't catch the whole thing, but we know they brought in Kaiser. Do you think that they're going to drop down into the top 10, top 12 and select a quarterback? I'm going to say yes, mostly because I think that I saw him talking about it today, but I also think it's a good plan.
Should they do it? I don't know if the right one falls to them. I think they should. I don't think they should give up too much to go down there. I think they have Kaiser. I think they need to just worry about building the defense. I mean, this is a defense right now that's 24th in points allowed, 32nd in total yards, 30th in passing yards, 32nd in rushing yards. You got more holes on the defensive end. Keep ground and pounding with Jalen Richard. Kaiser can make the throws, make him a game manager, and don't rely too much on the passing attack. And I think that could be their niche into getting back into the playoffs, as they're 5-8 right now. I do not see them. I don't think they should just go after a quarterback. I think just kind of ride it out with Kaiser, and if you're not too confident in Kaiser, maybe look for one in the 3rd round that you can develop. But with there only being a couple seasons left, I don't know if you can go through a further development with the quarterback. I think the defensive side of the ball, you can get immediate impact. That might be the right move to go. What do we have next?
Who is the rookie of the year outside of AJ Baggs, the quarterback for the Rams? We're not allowed to pick him. I see a couple guys on here that I like. You talked about Derek Tanner a little bit ago. You might want to talk about him again, but I'm going to go. Now, I'm going to get killed for this because the MBL Stats Twitter has released some information about Christian Withrow has only thrown over 200 yards one time, but the Bills quarterback is young and he's growing.
But you mean it's really Christian won't throw, right?
Yeah.
Got him.
Yes, exactly. Christian won't throw. But I think that he's got a solid base, and they took him in the second round, early second round, after they passed on the quarterback, and I killed them. I killed the Bills about that. But I think he's going to take good steps. That division's definitely winnable if they get another year to draft, and they draft very well. Not as good as the Bucs, but they draft very well. So I would say that's going to be my rookie of the year. There's a couple other guys that I. All right,
I'm going Derek Tanner, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's go. Next question. What do we got?
Doe or Playa?
Oh, Playa. Next question.
Yeah.
Playa's the better drafter. He's the best in the league. Doughboy is good at analyzing people's drafts after the fact. He knows a lot about a lot of players, but he doesn't come away with the best one. That's Playa. He does it somehow. He's got the magical formula. What else we got?
Well, I do believe this is about Melvin Gordon. Will Melvin Gordon finish the season healthy after having so many carries in the last 2 years? He's got to go down at some point. I was waiting for it last year. Didn't really ever happen. Having a good season again this year, so I'm going to say no. I think he's...
All right. Here's a great quote. I think Lip said no at the end, so he got to the right answer. Do not put your limitations of life on me. That's what Melvin Gordon is saying. He should have already been hurt probably twice by now, the amount of carries this guy has got. He ran for 255 attempts last season, 191 with 4 games to go right now. He should already be hurt. Obviously, he doesn't fall to the same limitations as our halfbacks, so I'm going to say he doesn't, and he stays healthy probably the rest of the cycle because Melvin Gordon is just a straight-up beast. What else we got?
Yeah, what wildcard team has the best chance to win the Super Bowl? I think that we touched on that already because we think somehow you can't kill the Seattle Seahawks, and they are there in the situation again. I guess the Vikings might be a wildcard team that I would say could make it to the NFC Championship.
I'm going Chiefs. I just think the Chiefs are hot. I like the Jets as well. They go in the wild card on the AFC. I like both of those teams. What else we got?
Is there a starting quarterback in the MBL that is done after this year?
All right, this is the final question. Starting quarterback right now in the MBL? Did you say NFL?
I may have, but I think I said...
Are we talking NFL or MBL?
MBL.
A starting quarterback that may retire?
It says maybe done, so he may be done.
That won't be a starting quarterback. So Hop clarified it as it won't be a starting quarterback next season, as if his performance was so bad that there's no way they can play him next season. Oh, man, I tell you who's played bad. The 49ers quarterback has not looked good this season, but his job, from what I've heard from ownership, Arsenio Sapp, is still the starting quarterback. They still trust in him, but they're going to finish the season out with Warren Ailman. As far as not starting next year, I'm going to have to go with... Man, I'm just going to ride the media wagon here on this one, the hype train. I'm going to go ahead and say Jameis Winston somehow finds himself on the bench next season to start for the Cleveland Browns. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's the only one that really comes to my mind as far as he just will not be the starter next season.
Yeah, I got one. I think Aaron Rodgers might leave Green Bay after this season, but that's up to a lot of things. Like we've talked about that on the show, but I think Rodgers could be one that is done. He might have another gig somewhere, but I just don't think it will be in Green Bay. I think that they're done with him and moving on, and that's going to do it. We're done with Crossfire.
Hey, wait! Did you see that trending thing on the MBL Network about the Vance dance? Brian Vance from the Titans. You know how you do the Vance dance? You and your friends come out in Wildcat formation and you run 80 yards untouched for a touchdown. It's called the Vance dance. It only works versus Jaguars, though. All right, that's all I got.
That's that Wildcat thing's happened twice for them. They know a thing or two about it.
Just don't know how to stop it. They know that they can't. They know
they don't know what it is. It's crazy.
Yeah, wait, are these guys gonna line up? Wait, what's going on here? What are they doing? Hey, coach, I don't know, man. Just wait it out. Maybe they're
You play in the division with Sonny Weaver and you don't know how to stop that yet. Several seasons in, I don't know what you're doing. All right, that's going to wrap it up for episode 36 of the Commissioner Corner podcast. Thank you all for tuning into the show. For Bomber and Hop, I'm Lip. Do not forget the EA Twitch. We will be hosted on those on EA's Twitch this weekend, Saturday. I do believe it's going to be, what, 9:15 or so? And every weekend, and then on the 21st and 22nd, back-to-back nights, it's going to be a big weekend. The Super Bowl will be the 14th, so tons of great stuff. You're going to see some great shows, as always, from the MBL Network. Thank you guys for tuning in, and have a great night.